Everything is burning down. Simply everything is effed. Everything is burning. That is the actual audio intercept from a Russian soldier on the Kharkiv front just earlier this week. He is screaming because his unit has no cover and no support. They are being dismantled by cheap Ukrainian drones while they beg their hapless colleagues for help. Meanwhile, as he was burning in the mud, the man supposed to build his shelter was in a Moscow court. On Wednesday, November 26th, the Moscow Arbitration Court declared Timur Ivanov bankrupt. This is the former deputy defense minister who stole billions from the Russian army. He bought a 2,600 square meter, 28,000 square foot mansion and a fleet of Bentleys. But now he's claiming that he lives in poverty. But at that exact same time, his wives are in another courtroom. They're fighting the state. They're demanding to keep 2.2 kilograms, about 5 pounds, of luxury jewelry. They want back their Graft rings, their Cartier bracelets. This combined are worth more than $2 million. But that is the split screen of the war today. A soldier screaming in a burning trench versus a corrupt official pleading bankruptcy in Moscow. All the while, his family seeking to hoard almost 5 pounds of diamonds. But there's something else that happened. Today, this morning in Kyiv, we saw that the government does not protect corruption, it prosecutes it. While Moscow manages the bankruptcy of its generals, Ukraine is raiding its own leadership to save the state. My name is Jason Smart. I'm a special correspondent for the Kyiv Post and National Security Advisor. As you might know, I first came to Kyiv already 10 years ago on a permanent basis. And the reason I came here is very simple. I was invited by the director at that point of the SBU, the Security Service of Ukraine, and we worked together in anti-corruption initiatives. So looking at the situation right now in Ukraine, I can assure you there's been a lot of improvements, and a lot more is going to be done. But today, we saw something else that was important. In Russia, people don't try to really hide their corruption. They're very open about it. Here in Ukraine, as soon as there is a mention of it, it is fully investigated, and nobody's protected. No matter how important they are, no matter how senior they are, or how close they are to the president, it does not protect them if they did something illegal. And they should not be protected, of course. So let's take a look at this. What's really going on here in Ukraine and what's really happening right now in Russia. Because the fact is, this channel exists for one reason. We got the truth of what's happening here in Kyiv and what's really happening in Russia. And you can help me get the truth to more people by simply liking this video, subscribing to this channel, and considering becoming a channel member today. And just one quick thing before we go ahead. We donated yet more drones to Ukrainian soldiers, and they themselves would like to thank you.
We, the Jihad Udayev Battalion, thank Jason J. Smart and United Unmanned System for purchasing the necessary equipment. It helps us save lives in the Sumy region. We thank everyone who helps us and support us. Slava Ukraini! Разом до перемоги!
Thank you all who have donated. If you haven't already, please do see the first pinned comment of how you too can make a contribution by PayPal or bank transfer. All currencies are accepted. So let's look at this. So this morning, November 28th, Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau, NABU, executed a high-risk search. They raided the home of Andrei Yermak, the head of the president's office. Yermak is arguably the second most powerful man in the country. Detectives entered his private residence and his official office with a full warrant. And this is part of the larger investigation called Operation Midas to look into theft and corruption in Energoatom, which is the nuclear energy giant here in Ukraine. Now, investigators allege a criminal group skimmed 10 to 15% off of the contracts. These contracts were specifically meant to protect nuclear plants from Russian missiles. This is official inside the highest political circles, but it is now being investigated. So far, though, very little has been released to the public. We don't have a lot of details, but there is a lot of rumors circulating on the internet. But what we see is this. The reaction from Yermak offers a stark contrast to the Russian silence. Yermak did not try to flee the country. He did not seek to get out so he could avoid prosecution. Instead, Yermak stated publicly, quote, "The investigators have no obstacles. I have full cooperation that I'm ready to give to them." Now, this is a messy and dangerous moment for the government, but it's also a sign of institutional life. In a mafia state like Russia, the police do not search the chief of staff's house unless he is dead. In a fighting democracy, the law walks through the front door of the most powerful office in the country. While Kyiv raids its own elites, Moscow is punishing the innocent to distract from the thieves in their ranks. Take a look at this. On Wednesday, November 26th, Russian prosecutors demanded 25 years in prison for a physicist. His name is Artyom Koroshelov. He's a 34-year-old scientist. His crime was not stealing billions of dollars like Timur Ivanov. His crime was donating about $9,000 of his own money to Ukrainian charities. Prosecutors charged him with high treason for sending funds to help civilians. The prosecutor's closing argument provided the most chilling quote of the week. She argued that his high intellectual potential increased his guilt. She stated, quote, "Possessing a high level of intellectual ability, he acted not out of ignorance." Look at the justice system that Putin has built that we see now operating in 2025. If you are a general who steals billions, you get a bankruptcy hearing. If you are a scientist with a high IQ who donates to charity, you get 25 years in prison. The Kremlin hunts the physicist because he represents the truth. The generals hunt for more budget to steal because they represent the system of the Kremlin. This corruption is not just a modern accident. It is a historical cycle. Historians call this the Russian disease, and it mirrors what we saw in the Crimean Wars in the 1850s. Back then, Tsar Nicholas I had the largest army in Europe, at least on paper, but his generals invented ghost regiments to steal salaries. Officers listed thousands of dead soldiers as alive so they could pocket the food budget. They painted cannonballs black to make them look new and stored flour until it rotted. And when the war started, the Russian army had no gunpowder, it had no shoes, and it was in a very bad way. Today's ghost regiments are the ghost fortifications in Kursk. Governor Smirnov was arrested in Russia for stealing the concrete meant for the border. The Tsar lost Crimea because he fought with paper soldiers. Putin is losing this war with paper defenses. The cost of those missing fortifications is being paid for in the blood of Russian soldiers on the battlefield right now. In the Pokrovsk direction, the lack of secure lines has allowed Ukrainian special forces to wreak havoc. In fact, just last night, Ukrainian operators infiltrated the gray zone. They located a concentration of Russian personnel hiding in a high-rise building. Because the Russian perimeter was porous, the drones struck the building without warning. In the village of Kamyanka, the same unit destroyed an ammo depot of the 137th Brigade. This was a brigade-level supply hub. It was wiped out because there's no layered defenses to stop the drones. The chaos on the ground is matched by the panic in the ranks of the Russian military. During a separate ambush in Pokrovsk, special forces engaged a Russian sabotage group. They eliminated 4 soldiers in close combat. And when the last Russian soldier tried to retreat, he attempted to launch a reconnaissance drone. Ukrainian operators shot it out of the sky and then captured his equipment. They even recovered a Russian Zhdun drone intact. That's pretty amazing, because this is what happens when corruption steals the budget for training and for equipment. The soldiers are left blind, fighting alone in the ruins, while their commanders steal the money from the walls. The incompetence on the battlefields is matched by a farce in the diplomatic corridors. What we're seeing right now occurring with these peace talks is part of that. While soldiers die for lack of secure radios, top Kremlin officials are leaking secrets on social media. This week, Putin's aide, Yuri Ushakov, gave an interview that stunned the intelligence community. Ushakov admitted to Kommersant, a well-known Russian magazine, that he conducts sensitive negotiations via WhatsApp. He said that, quote, "There are contacts, some conversations that happen on WhatsApp." This is the same app that Russia is officially designating as illegal. They, in fact, have already designated it as an extremist organization because it's owned by Meta. Russian citizens can be jailed for using it, but the president's aides use it for state business. This leak comes at a moment of total confusion regarding the peace process. On November 24th, Kremlin spokesperson Peskov said that they did not know the details of the U.S. plan. But by November 25th, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov claimed they had received it via unofficial channels. Then on November 26th, Ushakov contradicted them both, saying no serious discussions had yet happened. They cannot agree on the narrative because the system in Russia is broken. They are trying to negotiate a ceasefire while using banned apps on insecure phones. It is the diplomatic equivalent of the soldier screaming into a dead radio. The drone war numbers prove that this chaos is destroying Russia's ability to defend itself. Ukrainian analysts recently pulled a full week of Russian air defense reports. Even relying on Russian data, the numbers show a failure of mass production. Over 7 days, Russia launched a reported 1,311 drones. Ukraine shot down 881 of them. But if you remove one massive combined strike on November 25th, the daily average collapses. For the other 6 nights, Russia launched about 140 drones per night. This is far below the 1,000 drones per day that Russia experts had promised for this time of the year. Meanwhile, Ukraine is landing about 71 deep strike drones on Russian targets every single day. And every drone that gets through is a reminder that the money meant to stop them was stolen. The collapse on land is matched by a naval disaster that mirrors the Russo-Japanese War. In 1905, the Russian Imperial Navy was annihilated at the Battle of Tsushima. The ships were overloaded with low-quality coal because the contractors bribed the admirals. They were slow, visible, and poorly led. Today, we see the exact same retreat on the Black Sea. Satellite imagery confirms that the Russian forces in Sevastopol are moving their last ships at night. They are now shuffling their last Tapir-class landing ships between ports to avoid drones. Just like 1905, a smaller power with better technology is dismantling the Russian fleet. The Black Sea Fleet is not controlling the waves. It is hiding in the harbor, waiting to be scrapped. This internal rot is matched by an external humiliation that Putin tries to ignore. At a recent energy forum, Rosneft chief Igor Sechin admitted this new reality. He stated that, quote, China is the only industrial superpower, and Russia is a resource base. He did not say partner. He did not say ally. He said resource base. The price of that submission is quantifiable. Research by the Bank of Finland shows that Chinese military goods sold to Russia are becoming ever more expensive. The price for these goods has gone up 87% since the invasion began. For other countries, the prices for the exact same goods rose only about 9%. China is charging the Kremlin a massive war tax because they know that Moscow has no other options. So the raids in Kyiv and the repression in Moscow tell us how this war ends. Ukraine is accepting the pain of public scandal to stop the theft of the budget. It is risking political crisis to ensure that money goes to defense and not to graft. Russia, it is jailing its scientists and protecting its diamond-hoarding wives. This is the difference between a nation fixing its mistakes and an empire that is collapsing. Watch what happens in the coming weeks. Watch what we see in the few days ahead. What you will see is that Ukraine is doing its best to fight 2 wars at once. The one in the east against Russia and the one here in Kyiv against corruption. And that's why Ukraine will win. Thank you for watching. Please like this video. Please subscribe to this channel. And please consider becoming a channel member today. And please do leave your comments below. And at the very end, when you have a choice of clicking another video, please do. It really helps us with the algorithms. As always, thank you for supporting Ukraine.